Hey guys, welcome to our preview of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Now, normally I would do a full script and, I would put a ton of effort into the preview, but I don't have the time to do that. So instead, what I thought would be better would be have a casual discussion with one of my friends here, Lucas Thomas from Nintendo Force, because, especially because we are only able to talk about the first 5 hours of the game, whereas if I had a second person on, we can talk about each of our own 5 hours, so kind of like the first 10 hours in a way, right? So,
That's right.
Lucas, do you want to introduce yourself real quick to everyone?
Hey guys, I am Lucas M. Thomas from the Nintendo Force, also the editor-in-chief of NF Magazine.
Yeah, and that magazine is super cool, and not just because you guys interviewed me recently, so...
That's right. Issue number 25, the one that had Breath of the Wild on the cover.
That's right.
Andre Seegers is the featured interviewee.
See, it's only fitting then that I have you on for our Zelda discussion, right? Like, it's full circle now. It was meant to be, so...
That's right.
Alright, so, Lucas, this game is ridiculously huge. Like, I mean, obviously, you saw my analysis of the game. I mapped out how big I thought the world might be, but I don't think I was able to comprehend how truly big that is. Because we were talking just a little bit before this discussion. You've encountered the Guardian already out in the wild, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't at all. I've encountered like a couple of those grounded ones. I have not encountered a single free roaming Guardian. In fact, I've been playing this game for at least 15 hours so far, and I've barely reached, I think I'm in my third province, if you will, of I think 15 in the game. I'm nowhere. How is your progress stacking up?
Well, see, that's the interesting thing, is that everybody that plays this game, you're going to have conversations with your friends about where they've gone and what they've seen, and you're going to have entirely different experiences from absolutely every other person. Mm-hmm. It's totally crazy.
It really is.
It's weird to me that you haven't encountered a Guardian, because that was one of the first things I did was, sought them out, and I wanted to have that kind of encounter with, the signature enemy of the game.
Well, now you're just rubbing it in.
Prominent.
Now I feel like I'm missing out. So how was that? How was that encounter?
It was nuts. Holy cow. I had a couple of friends over on the first night the Switch was in the home, handed the controller over to them, and they managed to get into an area that was just swarming with Guardians.
Oh man.
Those little red laser sight lines just coming at you, just shooting back and forth. It was crazy nuts.
I know. I mean, every time I've seen one of those videos of the Guardian encounters, I'm like, oh man, those look epic. And yeah, despite not encountering one, I'm still having a great time with this game. So I'm kind of curious. I mean, of course, we have to be careful how much we discuss. And also, by the way, I should mention, we're not going to reveal any spoilers here, like any story spoilers. We're going to try to keep it, pretty light, more gameplay focused. I'm curious as to what you first did when you got off the plateau, because I know you mentioned the Guardian, but where did you go after that?
Yeah, so everybody's experience on the plateau is going to be mostly the same. I mean, people have seen the E3 previews and those shrines and, where you get the stasis rune and the magnesis rune, that kind of stuff, that's all at the beginning of the game. So it's after you decide which direction you're going to take that leap off of the plateau, that's whenever your real individual experience is going to begin. Do you choose to go north, east, south, west? You can pick whichever direction and have crazy adventures in all of them.
Real quick, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I love that. Like, when I got the Paracel, I was so excited. I'm like, oh man, where do I go? Like, because they haven't even shown that much off the plateau. I was so excited just to get off there and see what was out in the world.
Oh yeah.
So where did you fly off to?
I went straight north. I made a beeline straight for Hyrule Castle.
Oh man, did you encounter Ganon? I don't know if you can say, but did you try to, I guess, see how far, if you can beat the game that early?
Well, that was one of the interesting things to me, right? The developers said that if you wanted to, you could go straight to the final boss encounter.
Right.
And so I attempted that. I tried my very best to get there. And you actually can do it. You can do it.
Oh my god.
I can't imagine the speed runs that are going to come out of this game where you're going to see people flying through all of the tasks at the plateau, get in that paraglider, and then they're going to be running toward Hyrule Castle with just like a tree branch and the old shirt. and they're going to do it. I can't wait for the AGDQ that features this game.
Oh my god. I feel like I've been so sidetracked. I need to go do that now. Forget the area I'm at now. I want to go check that out. Okay, so after you, I'm guessing you failed, or I don't even know what all we can say about that. But obviously, you didn't beat the game there, seemingly. So what did you end up doing next?
Yeah, I'm sure there will be people that have enough skill to be able to beat the game like that. I was not one of them. I had to turn around and run away with my tail between my legs. But yeah, once I was there, I veered off to the west and found another place that killed me. And then I tried to go south for a little while and died down there. Man, you guys, there are game overs galore in Breath of the Wild. You will just get your butt handed to you again and again.
You are not kidding. Like it. So before Breath of the Wild, a few weeks ago, I started playing The Legend of Zelda on NES. Believe it or not, I've never actually beaten that game or barely even played it. I've only ever got up to the first dungeon, and then for whatever reason, I always lost interest or didn't play it. I don't know. I never finished it. So I sat down, and granted, I still haven't finished it. But I'm up to I think the 6th temple at this point. And before Breath of the Wild came in, it distracted me. And that game was tough as balls. And yeah. I think Breath of the Wild, I might have died more in this game now, which is ridiculous coming off of Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword, which, you had to go out of your way to try and die in those games, whereas I am dying all the time in this game.
Oh, absolutely. There are just so many enemies that can just kill you outright. One hit, you're dead. Yep. Game over.
And you know what? The strange thing is, it doesn't really feel that punishing. I mean, it's probably partially because the checkpoints or save points seem to be handled pretty well. Although even that changes. Like, there have been times where I'll die and I'll respawn and I'm right at that encounter, whereas other times I'm actually, maybe 10 minutes back or something. But it hasn't ever frustrated me because, even if I do get set back, I'm like, oh, I'll just go check out something else. And that's part of my problem, I think, so far. I mean, it's not really a problem. It is for me because I need to get the review done. But I'm being so sidetracked constantly by everything because no matter where you go, first off, there are no limits on this world. Like, you can literally go anywhere. You can see a mountain, you can climb up and then explore what's on top of the mountain. And then you can fly off the mountain and go somewhere else. It is so easy to get sidetracked here. I'm like the dog in Up, where I see something shiny and I go running at it. So it's tough because even though... So this is interesting because I don't know what your expectations were, but the game is both almost more open than I expected somehow, in the sense I didn't fully appreciate how open it is, but also at the same time, it still does a good job of guiding you toward the next major thing to do. So the game's actually more structured in a way than I expected, while being more open at the same time, which I realize may not make any sense, but I think you may be able to understand where I'm coming from on this.
Right. For people out there that want to go just story beat to story beat, you can do that. The game will point you in the right direction. But yeah, there are so many distractions along the way. Your progress echoes mine, it sounds like, because I've got this chunk of the map up here is okay, and this is up, but I haven't explored in the middle. It's because I saw this and I was heading this way, but then I turned left, and yeah.
It's kind of nuts. Like, you could probably just go point to point to point, go to each tower after each tower, I want to say not that long, but by that I mean still hours at the least. And I haven't tried that. I'm only guessing. But within each region, there's so much to do. Even though, like, when you reach a tower, it fills in that region, on your map, and it kind of gives you the idea that you've explored it, but no, you haven't. Like, each region is gigantic. Like, every region you find is bigger than the plateau itself, which already was huge in and of itself. It is just ridiculous. Like, I'm still finding new areas in, like, the first region I came across that I have never seen before. So how many towers have you activated, I guess? Or how many areas have you been able to reach?
I think 6 towers?
Oh, wow. So, okay, you're definitely ahead of me in that regard. So, okay. Yeah. I guess a quick question before we move on. Since you did try and head right to Hyrule Castle, would you recommend that to anyone? Like, is it worth checking out? Or do you kind of regret doing it and maybe wish you'd say that for later?
Absolutely. I think you should go for it.
Alright, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna totally do it. There's so many things we could talk about with this game because it is just an endless endless stuff that happens that we could discuss. So
right.
I guess I want to ask you though, what surprised you so far? Obviously, we all had our own expectations going in, but is there something that's happened, or whether on a macro or micro level, that's really taken you by surprise?
Most surprising to me is how much I have gotten into just finding all the different items, all the different pieces of gear, weapons, shields, bows. There's such a great variety that it's kind of a game unto himself.
Yeah.
I'm playing this game the whole time, and I'm just shaking my head. I'm saying prayers for the completionist, Gerard. I'm like, Gerard, my buddy.
Oh, man.
You've got your work cut out for you, man. Holy cow, it's going to take so much work to get a 100% on this game.
That is going to be rough, especially because there is a mechanic you get later on that kind of gives you some idea of how much stuff there is to find. And it's like, damn, I was filling mine in. I'm like, I found like nothing in this. I don't even know how I'm going to pull this off. So it's ridiculous. I will say though, I guess real quick, for as much as I am enjoying this game, I do have one slight issue with it at least, and that is getting to the inventory. I'm filling up my inventory constantly, so I'm always running up against that message, being like, your inventory is full. So I find that there is a lot of inventory management in this game, and I feel like they could probably done a little bit better job of automating that or mitigating that factor a little bit, so I'm not in the menu all the time. But I feel like I'm in the menu maybe a quarter of the time. It's probably not that bad, but it feels like I'm in there a lot.
Yeah, there are some quality of life, some minor things that I feel they could have done to help out with that. For example, if your inventory is full up on melee weapons and you come across a new melee weapon that you want to pick up and take with you, it'll say that you can't because your inventory is full. So then you have to open up the menu, select which weapon you want to drop and get rid of, and that'll open up the slot.
Right.
And then you can... there had to be a more streamlined way that they could have done that. So, yeah, there are ways that the inventory system could have been improved.
Yeah, I wish they had made it so if you try picking up something when you have a full inventory, it just immediately give you the option to discard either the weapon you picked up the longest time ago or the weakest weapon or something. It's something of that nature I think could have really helped with that. But, it's a relatively minor complaint in the grand scheme of things, and there is a lot in this game. So, what do you think of the story so far? Now, we don't want to get into specifics, of course, but we actually have seen some of the story now, whereas there was barely a hint of it or not much of a hint of it in the E3 demo. So, what do you think of that so far? And I guess as part of that, the voice acting as well.
That's right. Nintendo's lawyers will kill us if we reveal too much of the story.
Yes, they will.
Man, I can't believe that Darth Vader actually is Link's father. Like, oh, dang. Oh, sorry.
Oh, man. What have you done?
The voice acting is great. It's wonderful performances across the board from every character that gets voice dialogue. And, yeah, the story... just the tone of it is so surprising to me. Zelda has genuinely been kind of, a chipper series, and, even though Ganon represents the end of the world in so many of the past Zelda sequels, it's still very heroic and everybody's smiling and like, let's help Link save the day. This game, characters are like, just defeated. They're depressed. Yeah. Like they recognize that their world is ruined, and
it's a little bit like Majora's Mask in that sense.
Absolutely. I think that people that love Majora's Mask will adore the tone of the story in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, well, I love Majora's Mask, and I think that's partially why I am liking the tone here. But it is a darker tone. Like, it lends weight to your actions. Like, they matter here. Because it's like, damn, I need to help these people out. Well, I guess on that note, speaking of people, one of the concerns some people had, I think, or it almost reached meme status at E3 with like, are there going to be any villages? Are there no villages in this game? Are there any people here? And yeah, there are. There's like actually quite a few people in this game, and I've reached at least 2 towns. I don't know, maybe even counted even more than I have. And those towns, by the way, like there is so much to do in them. Like every town, I'm almost afraid of coming across more towns, but I'll waste like 2 hours just walking around, talking to everyone, seeing what's going on, exploring the shops. Like, I love, like, this world feels like a lived-in world, kind of touching on what you were getting to as well. Like it feels that people, it feels like a lively world. These people have their own schedules. Like you'll see them go from their house to their work, like in Majora's Mask. Except it's even more dynamic than this time, because in Majora's Mask goes on a set path, whereas this time they'll actually interact with things, or they'll walk around you if you're in the path instead of just pushing you out of the way like in Majora's Mask, which is pretty rude. And then even beyond that, they'll react to the weather. Like if it starts raining, people will run inside, getting out of the rain. Kids have play different games depending on what day it is. Like it's ridiculous how alive this world feels, not counting all the wildlife and everything.
You're absolutely right. I mean, in Majora's Mask, you had so much. You had Clock Town, right? The central town that had, a dozen, maybe 20 NPCs total, and they all had their schedules, and you could see them on the second day, and they'd be doing different stuff than the first day. But Breath of the Wild takes that and expands it across the entire map. There are NPCs that you can encounter in every zone across the entire map, and they're all doing different things at different times of day. Yeah, it is crazy.
It really is. And they all have different things to say. It's overwhelming. That is something that does not come across in any of these previews, and maybe not even fully now. I think it's something you kind of have to experience for yourself to realize, to appreciate how big this game is. Because you can look from the plateau, you can look out, it's okay, I can see those towers, those aren't that far. But once you get off the plateau, it's holy crap, those towers are actually pretty far away, and there's a lot of distance between them, It's ridiculous. It's fun though, that's what I like about it, because there is a sense of openness, and not just in where you go, but in how you approach any situation. Anytime you encounter a horde of bogoblins, for instance, or or even those large moblins, I've been afraid to take them on, because everyone I've encountered so far has been sleeping. And I'm like, man, I don't want to mess with that dude. He's gonna wreck me. So I'm gonna let him sleep. But I mean, then there's also beyond the bogoblins out in the world. There's those, I forget the proper name. Maybe those taller guys that walk around. I think they have the spears on them, maybe, but they're just menacing, and it's fun how many ways that you can try and take them on. You have your inventory, of course. You have your bow and arrow. You can use your Sheikah Slate powers. You could try throwing bombs at them, for instance, or you could try grabbing a crate from nearby and dropping it on them. There was one section I was going through. There was a stealthy section where you don't have to be stealthy, but I was trying to be because it was pretty important. And I found this metallic crate. And so I hid behind some kind of wall, or a cliff or something, a small hill, and I grabbed the metal box and started waving it around, slamming it into these guys who were shooting arrows at me, or at least they saw me, and just knocking them off cliffs. And it's just so fun how many options are available.
Yeah, it's glorious. They give you those rune powers right at the beginning, and it's just so much fun to take them out into the world and play with them in all kinds of different situations.
There really are. So I've touched on most of my main points I can think of offhand. Is there anything that stood out to you, or anything else you wanted to, anything you want to bring up major that we haven't really touched on yet specifically?
As you reveal more and more of the map, you'll see lots of references to old Zelda games in the names of places. So I won't give any specifics away, but there's just little nods to the entire history of the series in that way, which is pretty cool.
That's cool. I haven't seen that yet, so...
Well, there's one place that is named specifically after one of your co-GameXplainers that I think he will enjoy when he gets there.
Oh, man. No, I'm intrigued.
Yeah, everybody listening to this and playing Breath of the Wild later, you'll understand when you get there.
All right, now I just want to end this discussion. I want to go play the game more myself, see what you're talking about, and also just keep playing that game.
It's not Mount Derek or anything like that.
That'd be pretty amazing. Have you had any trouble adjusting to the controls? Because I found with the Wii games, so the Wii Zelda games, it seemed like they tried to simplify them a bit just to make it a little bit more accessible. Not that much, granted, but they were a little bit, they tried to make it simple with motion controls. Whereas here, I'm finding they went in the exact opposite direction. I'm still mixing up my quick inventory, or my quick access to the inventory. I don't know if you've gone grapple on that yet, but I'm always choosing, I'm always going to my Sheikah Slate powers versus my sword or shield, for instance.
Yeah, every button on both Joy-Cons is used. Every single one of them has a function, so you will mix them up from time to time, but it's usually not with deadly results, so it's not too bad.
Right. No, it's not, and And again, like, even when I have messed it up, I mean, first off, I recognize it's my fault. And two, you know, it's not frustrating because it doesn't feel like in this game you're repeating stuff when you die. Because you don't have to go do the same thing you were just doing. You can, and maybe you will get that feeling if you do. But you can just go off somewhere else and go, you know, take a break. Go, you know, find another tower or a shrine. And I guess, you know, that's something we haven't really touched on is the shrines and dungeons. I guess we probably can't mention the dungeons, but I think that's probably beyond the 5-hour mark. I don't know, maybe you're really good and you got there within 5 hours. But the shrines we can definitely talk about. And I didn't really appreciate, or at E3, like how important it is to find them, because they act as quick travel points. So they act as even more of a reward beyond just getting the Spirit Orb, which, by the way, you can cash those in. I don't think this is a spoiler, it's just a gameplay thing. You can cash 4 of those orbs in at the goddess statues, and then you can upgrade either your heart or your stamina. And I've been kind of trying to balance it so far. I don't know, have you been doing the same, or have you been focusing on one versus the other?
I focused mostly on hearts at first, but I have gotten a couple of stamina upgrades to help me climb the sheer vertical rock faces a little bit easier.
It's important, yeah. So I do like that. It really makes you feel rewarded for finding the temple because it's now a quick travel point, and then you feel rewarded again for beating it because you get that orb. And this world is so big. Like I initially figured I would be stumbling across shrines constantly, knowing there was 100 in the world. That is so not the case, though. They are so spread out somehow. Even with, you actually get a tracker at some point that beeps when you're relatively close, and I say relatively loosely, because you're still quite you can be still quite far away. But if you're heading in this direction, it'll start beeping. It'll beep faster the closer you get. When I first got it, I'm like, oh, this seems like it would kind of take the fun out of it. Like, you know, I like the idea of coming across shrines randomly, or seeing one in the distance and trying to find my way to it. But no, that thing is essential. You need that.
Yeah, well, that's interesting that you have that opinion, because I turned that off right away.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I didn't want any assistance, you know, because a lot of the shrines are in plain view, but some of them aren't. Some of them are hidden by the environment, so I didn't want a little beeping Sheikah Slate saying, ding, 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 you're getting warmer, you're red hot.
I will say, I wish it handled that a little bit better, because that beeping does get a little bit annoying, especially when you're doing a task not even related to a shrine. Like, it's like, I don't want to go find a shrine yet. You can't turn it off, but it's a little bit annoying, so sometimes I'll just put up with the beeping instead of going to the menu to turn it off. But apparently you already took care of that, so...
Yeah, the beeping annoyed me within the first 30 seconds, so I toggled that right off.
I don't blame you. Well, how many shrines have you come across then? Because I wonder if you found less than I have as a result.
I have, I want to say about 24, 25.
You're doing fine then. You're destroying me in terms of shrines. I think I've found maybe 12-ish, 12, 13. So I've upgraded 3 times now, I think.
Gotcha.
So, yeah. So, man, you're just shaming my performance here so far. Like, I just feel inadequate now.
I just need to start making up late game stuff, and you won't be able to refute me because you haven't gotten that far yet.
It's true, I know, right? Are there any other major points we haven't really touched on yet at all? Like, I'm trying to think. I mean, we could go on, you know, infinitely about any of these, but anything else you can think of that we should touch on? Like, any other points again?
Yeah, I've got the long list from Nintendo of all of the different things that we are not allowed to talk about.
Real quick, by the way, did you fully read through that? Because I've been trying to avoid it, but I don't want to spoil it for myself.
I did read through it. I played, they said we can talk about the first 5 hours of our gameplay, so I played 5 hours of the game, and then I went to consult the list.
Right, gotcha.
That's the interesting thing about game reviewing and embargoes. They send you these pieces of paper that says, please don't discuss the following spoilers, and then they list out and spoil everything in the game for you. Like,
no!
Thanks, great. That's wonderful, Nintendo. I will not talk about that now.
I guess, what's your favorite thing to do in the game so far? Do you have a favorite activity?
My favorite thing is climbing.
Yeah.
Pathfinding on all of the different rock faces, all the different mountains. You know, finding the right way to get up to places, because you think that you would need some stamina upgrades to be able to get up on top of some things, but I think that you can accomplish most things. And in fact, I think that you can probably get anywhere in the world with just the equipment and abilities that you have when you're leaving the plateau. Some places might take a whole lot of patience to get to, and you might get abilities later on that would help you get there faster and easier. But I think you really could get anywhere you wanted right from the start.
In my experience, I think you're right, and even if not, you can always just cook food to give you the elixirs or whatever you need for that stamina boost to probably make it. But yeah, I feel the same way. Like, I haven't felt really that limited by my stamina that often, and it really feels like you can surmount almost anything you want if you put your mind to it and dedicate yourself to it. I guess one of my favorite things is I like climbing, I like flying. I love getting high. Well, okay, I like getting high up and then gliding from there. And because you can cover quite a bit of distance while gliding, and I love just taking in the sights as I'm doing so, like spinning the camera around me and seeing what's around me and seeing where I want to go. And at the same time, I almost kind of hate it because I'm like, man, there's like 5 areas I want to go to, but I can only choose one. Where do I want to go?
Yeah, I'll get halfway through a long glide and something will catch my eye off to the side and I'll just veer 90-degree turn. Oh, I'm gonna go over there actually. Right?
Yeah, I again, it's just how open this game is. Like, you really seemingly can go basically anywhere. I encountered, I don't want to get too specific again, but I encountered like what seems to be like in any other game, like it seems like it'd be a late game enemy, someone that can just one-shot you instantly, and this guy has the ability to see you from an insane distance. Like, if you make a noise or you're out, or if you're visible at all, like, he will spot you and he will track you down. And it's really creepy. It's disconcerting even, because he won't always attack, I've noticed. Instead, he'll just like sit at a distance just staring at you, and his head will follow you as you move. And it's terrifying. It legitimately terrified me. I'm like, man, what's this guy's deal? And it's like little things like that. Like, you can just encounter all kinds of, you never know what you'll come across. And I'm finding stuff that hasn't even, granted, I kind of went in blackout mode a couple weeks before the game came out, or before we got it rather. And right. So I don't know if they did show off some of this stuff, but I'm being surprised almost constantly by this game.
Yeah, I know the enemy that you're talking about, and yeah. It is terrifying.
Right?
I came across it for the first time, and you're right. It does not approach you. It just stands at a distance and stares you down. And then if you're stupid enough to stick around in anywhere close to proximity to it, then you will feel the pain.
Oh man, I felt the pain many times, so... Alright, I guess we can probably start wrapping it up here. Again, we go on forever, but we want those surprises to be there for you too when you're playing the game. Because I think that's why I went in blackout mode. Like, as you know, I so often analyze every detail about these games, and this time I had to cut myself off. I'm like, no more. I want to be surprised by this game. And sure enough, it is definitely surprising me. So do you have any final thoughts, Lucas, at all? Like, any final, your overall impressions or any final thoughts you want to leave us with about your impressions of the game so far?
Absolutely. Let me put it this way. I want everybody listening to this to just take a deep breath, breathe in slowly, exhale, and I want everybody to take just a moment and allow yourself to make a memory that will last a lifetime. Because The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is one of those rare games. It's an Ocarina of Time level game. It is a Super Mario Galaxy level game. This is a game that we're going to be talking about for decades to come. It's going to be a reference point for these discussions 10, 20, 30 years from now. So you are going to want to remember where you were, what you were doing in your life when you got to play Breath of the Wild for the first time. It is that good.
Wow, well said. It also sounds like I'll have to have you on in another discussion in 30 years so we can reminisce about Breath of the Wild.
That's right.
Oh, yeah, at this point, I basically agree with you. I'm having a great time with this game. It is different from any other Zelda game we've played, except, it's the closest to the original Legend of Zelda. But, even that comparison isn't quite apt because this game is so much bigger than that in 3D, and they layered all these mechanics on top of it. It's just insane how much there is to do here, and I'm having a blast discovering it all. So, Lucas, thank you so much for joining me. Do you want to tell people where they can find you at?
Go to patreon.com/NintendoForce to subscribe to NF Magazine, or you can go to NintendoForceMagazine.com to buy the back issues, including issue number 25, with Breath of the Wild on the cover and Andre's interview inside.
You definitely should. That was a really fun interview to do, by the way. I actually really enjoyed that. It made me think about my history and, like, why do I do these things? Why am I so detail-oriented? And of course, guys, make sure to stay tuned to GameXplain for lots more on Zelda Breath of the Wild, including our review coming up in a few days, I think. Or a week, I don't know. I've lost all track of time. And of course, everything else about the Nintendo Switch as well. Catch you guys later. Bye.